For the American edition of The Voice of Russia, I'm Andrew Hiller. 52 years ago, on this very day, April 12, 1961, Russia sent a man into orbit for the first time. Yuri Gagarin gained instant celebrity as the pilot of Vostok 1, and his successful mission helped accelerate the space race that was one of the friendlier parts of the Cold War rivalry between Russia and the United States. Here to tell us about the first man in space and the day of Gagarin is Natan Eismont. He's a leading scientist at the Russian Space Research Institute of the Russian Academy of Science. Welcome, Natan.
Hello.
How significant was the achievement of Yuri and Vostok 1 to Russia and indeed the world?
It was and is the great achievement. The great achievement not only the Russia, Soviet Union at that time, but great achievement of the whole mankind. Because it meant what the famous Tsiolkovsky once said, that mankind not will stay forever on the Earth surface, but at the same time it will move to universe. And it happened at that day. It was not so far from the surface of the Earth, but it meant that now space is accessible for the mankind.
And tell me about that actual mission. What did he do once Vostok 2, that little bell-shaped capsule, broke the atmosphere?
Vostok was really a very small capsule. The weight of the capsule, together with the some service system to control this capsule base, which allowed to return it back by the engine velocity impulse. It was about 5 tons. But to send such mass into space, for this very large rocket was built, but initially it was built not for this purpose, to send man in space. It was built for the purposes of destroying enemy. It was the Cold War at that time, and those states which were trying to reach the status when one of these states will reach some superiority over the other, it led to the construction of the arm which never been in one maker before. The both states, they developed the rocket and reached the other continent. Then it was understood that this rocket might be used only, not only for the destruction, but in order to reach the goals never been reached before, to send the man into space. First it was done by the Soviet Union, and then very soon by the United States.
And so this device, which was initially designed as a missile for destruction, wound up being an incredible symbol of man's achievement. I want to talk a little bit about danger, though, because even though the Soviet Union, even though Russia had sent animals into space prior to Vostok, as we know, even from the space shuttles 20 years ago, anytime you launch something into space, it's very, very dangerous. How much risk did Yuri face when he went into space?
Well, as you just told, the risk is still high. It is still high for the person who sends the space. But at the time of the Yuri Gagarin, the risk was much, much higher. Before sending Gagarin into space, the capsule without crew and capsule with the animals has been sent. And then in these cases, the decision is to be done. Either we are ready to send men to space, either we need to continue our tests. And the decision was very risky because the number of unsuccessful launches before Gagarin was higher than the number of successful launches. So it was risk for those who take the decision, and naturally was the risk, very high level of risk for Gagarin. Luckily, this launch and the return were successful, but level of risk, which was at that time, was much, much higher than the level of risk still existing for today's spaceflight.
Most people focus on Gagarin, just like here in the United States, most people focus on Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin. But behind them, there were thousands of scientists working really hard to make sure that this mission could be successful. Tell me about the scientific effort that happened to make this kind of launch possible. How hard was it?
That you're right, that really thousands of the scientists, of engineers, of those who are involved now in such activity and who were involved in this activity for launch of Gagarin, they did a very, very, very hard work because it was not on the flight of Gagarin into something which never been reached, but also during the preparation of such flight. A lot of the problems were to be solved, the problems which are to be solved without any possibility to delete the error. You know that the probability that the venture will be successful was very far from to be zero, yeah? And and to reach the success such which mission, many tests of the systems were to be done, and all this were to be done in the pressure of the time, because it was very strong race between Russia and United States. Each power intended to be the first in this race, and you know that the United States wasn't very far from the Soviet Union in this race. So this race was approximately, as we say, on the same level. But so if somebody will do some error, then the counterpart will overcome, and the first will reach this very difficult goal to send the man into space. In this case, the Soviet Union was ahead of the United States. But then in the United States, a lot of effort was used in order to reach the level reached before by the Soviet Union, and even go ahead. This famous landing on the surface of the moon, the Americans, they overcome the Russians in this race.
There's a belief that musicians and artists, when they come together, they don't feel politics in their hearts. They care about the music. And with the scientists I know, similarly, they much more care about the science, the achievement, and working together and trying to get the answer to solve their problem or learn something brand new. You're a scientist who's worked in life, I'm guessing most of your life, although from a different generation. When you think about those scientists, was it a friendly competition? Was it national pride? Or was it really about the science for them?
You know, the contemporary space science is in principle the international science. And each scientist, as you just told, first think about the science itself and then about the problem who would be the first. And often the people trying to hide something from the others who participate in some activity, for example, in this space. But it's not so, as I think, in this area of human activity. In this area, the participants, they always very glad to see their partners, maybe their counterparts. And though nobody wish somebody who participate in this competition will fail, everybody wish that the other participants of this activity will do the same or even better than the people who participate from the other part of the continent, in other country. So the space activity is very cooperative, I would say. And some things can be reached only together. The common participation in this mission, in these flights, and solving of the difficult problem of science and space industry.
Looking at Yuri Day and man's first moments in outer space. I'm Andrew Hiller for The Voice of Russia, and we've been speaking with Natan Eismont, who's a leading scientist at the Russian Space Research Center of the Russian Academy of Science. Thank you so much for taking us into space for a moment.
Thank you.